The movie kicks off in a lab where Victor, Nadia, and Batia are building a robot together. Once the robot is built, they start running some tests, but there are still a few glitches. Because of these bugs, it doesn't work right and even starts wrecking the lab. The three of them had been working on this project for 5 years. Because of this, Victor and Nadia started neglecting their son Dmitri, who they affectionately called Mitya. Mitya wanted to go to an art school. He wanted to be an artist, just like Da Vinci. But since his parents were engineers, they wanted their son to follow in their footsteps. That's why they enrolled Mitya in a school for math and physics. As usual, they were in the lab trying to fix the robot. And finally, after all these days of hard work, the robot was walking around smoothly. It was even using its strength properly. The robot's name was A112. Victor takes his successful project to the director for approval because Victor had designed it to be a rescue robot that could help people. So they put A112 through 3 survival tests. First, finding and rescuing a fake survivor from a burning train, but it couldn't communicate properly. Second, rescuing a survivor from under the rubble of a collapsed building, but instead of moving the debris, it started giving the survivor directions. And third, they placed a child and an old man under a container. Just as the container was about to fall, A112 saved the old man. The director objected to this, saying, "This robot's communication skills and way of thinking are completely different from a human's. Otherwise, it would have saved the child, not the old man. That's why we can't use this robot. To save a human, you need to think like a human." Back in the lab, Victor asks A112 why it did that, but A112 dodges the question. Instead, it looks at a family picture on Victor's desk and asks what a family is, saying it wants to find one too. But Victor tells him, "You really disappointed me today," and walks out of the lab. Alone in the lab, A112 starts searching for information about family. Its eyes land on the picture on Victor's desk again. It picks up the photo, keeps it, and starts to leave the lab. But the door is password protected. A112 uses its strength, cuts a hole in the door, and gets out. On the street, everyone thinks it's just a kid in a costume. I mean, obviously, people don't see robots every day. It tries to ask everyone about family, but some people run away, some shoo it away, and some get scared, thinking it's a devil. Finally, A112 takes out Victor's family picture, scans it, identifies the route to his house, and starts heading there. At school, Mitya is supposed to be doing a math quiz, but instead, he starts sketching his teacher. Because of this, he gets an F. The teacher calls his dad to discuss Mitya's behavior. Mitya, worried that his dad will be even more disappointed in him, heads home from school. On the way, he runs into Uncle Grant, who was a guard and also Mitya's best friend. Grant lets Mitya use his workshop to draw, which Mitya also calls his studio. Grant offers to go to the school in his dad's place, but Mitya says no and goes home. That night, Victor scolds Mitya and expresses his disappointment over the bad grade. The next day in class, the teacher gives the kids an assignment to build a robot. The other kids make fun of Mitya, saying he'll probably bring in a Mona Lisa robot. Mitya leaves the class and goes back home. Meanwhile, A112 has also arrived at their house. As soon as Mitya goes into the washroom, he finds A112 there. He gets scared and runs to his room. A112 asks him, "Why are you scared of me?" and then lets him choose a voice from its voice modules. Mitya realizes the robot is harmless. A112 introduces itself, but Mitya says its name is pretty weird, so he decides to call it Robo. Robo asks Mitya about family and shows him the same picture. Mitya, feeling down, says, "That's not a family. My parents only think about themselves, and they don't let me do art." Hearing this, A112 says that in that case, they're both the same. When Victor gets to the lab, Katya tells him that Robo has escaped. The director arrives too and says, "Your robot is out of control now. It's going to go out into the world and cause chaos. That's why we have to find it and destroy it." Victor says it's harmless, but the director doesn't listen and says that if Robo isn't found, he'll shut down the lab. Victor goes to his desk and sees that the picture is missing. He suddenly suspects that Robo might have gone to his house, so he immediately heads home. At home, Robo and Mitya are watching TV when the doorbell rings. Mitya tells Robo to hide, and they manage to hide from Victor successfully. When Mitya realizes that Robo isn't safe at his house, he takes him to his studio. There, he shows Robo his drawings. He explains that this is art. But Robo doesn't understand what art means. So Mitya explains that art is something beautiful, like a sunset. That night at the dinner table, Victor and Nadia are discussing Robo. Mitya asks them about it. Victor tells him that the robot they built is missing, and if it isn't found, the general will shut down their lab. Mitya asks, "What if you do find the robot?" They reply that they'll fix its mistakes, build a new project, and dismantle Robo. Hearing this, Mitya decides not to tell them about Robo. The next day at school, a boy named Anton, who bullies Mitya, uses a toy robot to get the teacher's attention and then puts the remote in Mitya's hand so the teacher would question him. She sends Mitya out of the class, and Mitya goes back to the studio. Meanwhile, the general has now sent the Moscow police to find Robot, telling them it's a dangerous robot that could harm anyone. The entire city's police and military start searching for Robo. Arriving at the studio, Mitya hears Grant's voice from inside. He runs in, but sees Grant and Robo playing cards. They had also become good friends. During the game, the police show up at the door and say they need to search Grant's attic. He quickly tells both of them to go up the stairs to the roof. Mitya and Robo run from there. The police come in and start chasing after Robo. With its fast speed and high jumping ability, Robo easily jumps across rooftops, escaping the police with Mitya right there with him. News spreads throughout the city that the robot has escaped the police, but that it also has a child with it, whom it has supposedly kidnapped. Mitya and Robo are hiding at a construction site, watching the news. Mitya says that Robo is a good guy, and Robo replies, "Yes, I am perfect." Just then, Mitya starts to feel cold. Robo takes out a sheet from inside itself and gives it to him, and then starts a fire there. It says, "How is this possible? An imperfect thing like a human created a perfect thing like me." Mitya gets a little upset that his parents must be worried. Robo says it can take him home, but Mitya says no. At home, Nadia and Victor are very worried about Mitya. Nadia says to Victor, maybe what the janitor said is true. Maybe Robo became Mitya's friend. Victor doesn't believe her and says a robot can't be a human's friend. He says that robot was rejected because it couldn't communicate properly. So how could it stay with him, and how did it follow his orders? Mitya says, I never ordered him. We're friends, and we figure out situations together. Victor still can't believe it and says, I'll believe it when I see it. Mitya takes him to the same park where Robo and Olga were. As soon as Victor and Mitya arrive, Robo greets them. Victor tells all of them that they should go home for now. He says to Robo, A112, I order you to come with me. But it replies, my name is Robo, and friends don't order each other. Victor is stunned and realizes Mitya was telling the truth. He starts to lead the three of them home, but just then, the general arrives with the police to destroy Robot with an electromagnetic bullet. They all start running and end up in an open area with lots of containers. Suddenly, the police surround them from all sides and demand they hand over the robot. They start firing the bullets, and Robo, detecting the danger, tells everyone to get away from there. All of a sudden, due to a strong gust of wind, a container hanging overhead starts to fall. Robo rushes to hold it up, saving everyone, but gets crushed underneath. The general is shocked to see that Robo saved them all and accepts that Robo was indeed capable of being a rescue robot. But the sad part was, it was now broken. They lift the container, and underneath are the pieces of Robo. Mitya starts to cry, and a wave of sadness washes over everyone. Suddenly, Robo calls out to Mitya, and everyone is happy to see that Robo's system hadn't completely shut down. Later, Victor gets his lab back. He fixes Robo. Mitya gets to go to art school, and they all become a complete, happy family. And with that, the movie comes to a happy end.